What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, and today we're talking about Dragon Ball Sparking Zero because I've played about 10 hours of it and wanted to kind of give some off-the-cuff impressions as to what's good, what's bad, and what is currently a bit busted. But let's get into it. I hope you're having a great day, and if you could, please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, let me just say at the start that I'm not very good at this game. I mean, I can win a decent amount of online matches and certainly carry on a pretty long combo, but if it ever came down to me actually competing in a tournament, I wouldn't get past like round 2. But I am a huge fan of Dragon Ball. I mean, Z specifically, one of those kids that ran home every single day the second school got out to see if Goku could properly power up to conquer Cell or Boo or Frieza, whoever the villain of the week this month was. But I really appreciated the fact that in a lot of these games, they really tried to pack the roster. This is technically a sequel to the old Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi games, which means not only is it just totally filled with hundreds and hundreds of people, in this case there are 182 characters from the entire saga. I'm impressed that so many of them not just play well together, they're surprisingly well balanced, but let's talk about how this plays. First and foremost, let's talk about that episodic mode. So if you're just a fan of Dragon Ball, if you're just a person that wants to see some cool random fights that you already know and love from DBZ or Super or even stuff like Dragon Ball GT, there's a lot of stuff you can sit down to play here, but episodic mode is where you essentially pick a character and see the storyline from their point of view. So of course, picking Goku means you're going to see Raditz, you're going to see the Saiyan saga, you're going to die and watch all that go down. But what's cool about this is, as you're playing the episodic mode, whenever you encounter the other characters, you can then play as them. So at the start, you can only play as Goku, but when you run into Gohan or run into Vegeta and stuff like that, you can then play through the game from their point of view, and it's kind of fun. It's cool to actually see not just what they were doing when the other characters are off training with Supreme Kai and stuff like that, but it's also cool because you can encounter weird what-if scenarios. Like sometimes if you win or lose a particular fight, you can change the timeline and see stuff that didn't happen in the anime. And it's cool because not only are these all animated, not only are they fully voiced by the original cast, but some of them are downright funny. This existed in the old school Budokai games as well, and I always liked that. Like, there was actually a board game in Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2, and in it there was like a mode where at one point Cell is eating everybody on the board, and if he eats Krillin, he gets weaker. So you could actually purposely sacrifice Krillin to have an easier time with the upcoming Cell boss fight. This is essentially that. Episodic mode is certainly just fanfare. It's incredibly funny, it's incredibly fun, and it's a good way to kind of learn how this game fights. I mean, the last thing I want to say about this, though, is one of my few complaints about the game, which is that playing as the good guys is not just fun, it's definitely way easier than a lot of the other storylines. And what I mean specifically is that, for whatever reason, the later storylines, stuff in Dragon Ball Super and stuff, the difficulty feels like 10 times higher, which is kind of strange. I guess it's because the power levels are higher and they're trying to sort of like make a facsimile for that, but it is weird that the early arcs, stuff like the Saiyan saga or the Cell saga, are not just more playable, but they're kind of just what you're used to. So when you start to go to those later, like Goku Black saga and stuff like that, it suddenly becomes way, way, way harder to even win a single match. But let's talk about how the combat works. So the actual buttons in this are very, very simple. In fact, I feel like I really appreciate the fact that the training really teaches you the basic concepts to a playable degree, but the intricacies of it with any fighting game, a lot of it comes down to combos and it comes to timing, right? So in this, you have punch, you have ki blast, you have dash, you have fly, you have magic. You're like a spells button, or what do they call it? They call it signature abilities and ultimate attacks, you know? So if you're playing as Goku, this is stuff like the Kamehameha. If you're playing as Vegeta, it's Megaton Blast attack or whatever like that. But when you're playing this, I think what I really like about this is that Everything about it is so high speed, but feels so responsive. I feel like with even a little bit of practice, you start to feel those more advanced abilities even at the start of it. I feel like this is the kind of game where at the start, since you do just have one punch button and one blast button, it's easy to kind of just start testing out a very simplified combo of hit, hit, blast, or trying to charge up a stronger hit to knock somebody up, and then holding R2 so you can power up and do a Kamehameha, right? But once you start to practice it, you start to see the other layers to it. Stuff like recoveries, rush chains, advanced close range maneuvers, or instant transmission attacks, follow-up attacks, being able to not just hit somebody, but hit them so hard it causes them to go flying, teleporting to the other side of them, and then hitting them again to keep that combo going. This stuff looks very advanced, but I feel like what's good about this game is that as soon as you start messing with it, especially if you're sticking with one particular character, you really begin to see all the things that are connected with it. Now, throughout this video, I've been showing you a bunch of clips of me kicking ass, of course, right? I mean, I'm editing this, so I'm going to put together like a Call of Duty montage of crazy kills to Linkin Park soundtrack. But I think I want to show you a loss. So, one of my first matches online, I was playing as Future Trunks. I love his Z-Sword, I think his haircut is badass, but while I was playing as him, this dude I was going against completely kicked my ass. I got him pretty low, and then he just comboed me into the freaking pavement. And I actually sat down the controller and I clapped in real life. I mean, this sounds like a real cringe, that didn't happen style moment, but I legitimately did, because there are moments of this that are not just fun to look at, but are actually fun to lose, because the best balanced fighting games, I think they actually inspire you to learn, to figure out, to experiment, to actually see not just how you lost, but how you could have won. And I feel like even just doing some random matches here, I won a lot more than I thought I was going to. I really appreciated the fact that everything feels so dang smooth. I'm really impressed more than anything else that it feels like there is a surprising amount of balance and depth with a 182-person roster. Like, if you don't know Dragon Ball Z that well, you'd probably be confused as to why there's like 10 different versions of Vegeta or 5 different versions of Frieza and Cell, and be like, okay, why is Frieza big, and then small, and then metal, and then cybernetic, and then gold? What's cool about this is that not only does this have like every single version of Goku, from Kid Goku to Teen Goku to Adult Goku to Instinct Goku to Kaioken Goku, they're all balanced different. Because with an episodes, I mean, this anime has like thousands of episodes at this point, I think. And the dealio is that each of those different eras of Goku fought differently. He had different tactics, he had different strategies, he had different super abilities. And it's cool that you can actually be those different versions of Goku, and they all play a little bit different. This even goes for some, in my opinion, really ridiculous stuff, like the fact that you can be Full Moon Vegeta and be a giant primal ape and friggin' kick ass as that. And for the most part, this stuff is still pretty balanced. Like, yeah, Great Ape Vegeta is pretty dang big, and his grab attack probably does too much damage, but he also can't really dodge as well when I'm blasting him with huge hits. I like the fact that everybody plays so different, and it's cool to actually experiment with the characters and figure out how Videl can go against Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo or whatever, which it's crazy that Bobbidi and Bibbidi are even to... Okay, my point is the fact that Dragon Ball is very, very goofy. Now, the other major problem I have with this game is actually with an AI problem. It's probably going to get patched, but I noticed that it feels like the AI, when you're going against computer-controlled opponents, which is a big part of practicing combos and stuff like that, they seem to be confused by flight. So, you have like a fly up and a fly down. You have an increase altitude, decrease altitude button. It's very easy to do. And honestly, there is a good tactic to it of being able to make sure how high up am I, how close am I, so I can dash back in and try and start a combo up or something like that. But while you're flying around, the enemy, it feels like about 5% of the time when they touch the ground, they just stop. I don't know why, but it does feel like sometimes the enemy players will go and touch down, they'll stop flying, and they don't start flying again. I don't know, I probably have a couple clips of this, and if I can't, just imagine what I'm talking about here. The AI will just break. The AI will just stop fighting back, and I really don't know what would cause something like that, but it doesn't happen a lot, but it is weird when you're in like a big cool fight or trying to practice something and your opponent just pretty much deactivates, and I don't know why. Now, my other last teeny tiny complaint is last year I decided to watch all of Dragon Ball Super for the first time. Very good, of course, and I watched all of Dragon Ball. And Dragon Ball's great. It feels like there's not enough Dragon Ball stuff in this. Like, they have DBZ and GT and Super and a bunch of stuff from all the Dragon Ball Z movies and stuff like that. I did not see that much from Dragon Ball, other than Master Roshi and Goku. Maybe I haven't unlocked them yet, but I want more Dragon Ball love in a game that's called Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. But these have just been some off-the-cuff thoughts about the game after playing 10 hours of it. But what do you guys think about Dragon Ball Z Sparking Zero? Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and please keep dreaming. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.